Now then, today in Perspective, we're going to tell you a desperately sad story of a woman on death row in Texas in the US. She's due to be executed later this month. Now, if so, she would become the first Hispanic-American woman sentenced to death in the state. It's a story, though, that my guest today believes uncovers a huge miscarriage of justice. Now, the case is that of 48-year-old Melissa Lucio, who was found guilty of killing her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah, in 2007. Let's have a look at a bit of the film then to give you an idea.
My name is Melissa Elizabeth Lucio. I'm 48 years old. I have 14 children. I've been on death row 11 years.
There were bruises from head to toe. There were bruises on the face, in the hair, on the chest. This was the worst case of child abuse I had ever seen.
Oh my gosh. She fell all the way down. From the first step up there all the way down here. Imagine the baby falls.
The baby? And did you see her fall, or did somebody tell you that that's what had happened to her?
No, I saw.
The interview was never presented to the court, and none of those kids ever said that their mom was beating up on Mariah.
It was during election time. Armando Villalobos was running again for DA. I'm the first Hispanic woman on death row, so this was a huge case for him.
Bribery was endemic. He'd be compensated for favorable treatment in criminal cases.
That was a plan, to put her away. My mother, poor, perfect target to help him win his election. She's no criminal, they're the criminals. They're the criminals.
Well, then let's meet the maker of that film, Sabrina Van Tassel. You met Melissa Lucio while she was on death row, filming a general story about women awaiting execution. As Sabrina looked into that case, she uncovered a series of things that made her seriously doubt the conviction. Thanks to the film, well, a campaign is now in full swing to free Melissa Lucio. Top US stars like Susan Sarandon, Kim Kardashian, they've expressed their support. This Thursday, France's former Justice Minister, Christiane Taubira, along with Paris's City Hall and Amnesty, are leading a rally here in Paris in her support as well. And Sabrina Van Tassel joins us here on set now. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us about this case today. I've got goosebumps just watching that trailer. I mean, the power of the storytelling is incredible, isn't it? But tell us, first of all, how you actually first met Melissa in the first place.
So I was doing a documentary about women on death row, and it just so happened that in Texas, you can actually film inmates on death row. So I requested to interview two different women. One of them was Melissa, and at the beginning, I didn't really know what I was going to talk about because really, I mean, there had been nothing on her whatsoever. I mean, really, the press, the media had no interest in Melissa's case. It was kind of like a child abuse case. Like, unfortunately, there's hundreds and thousands in the world, and there is really nothing much to say about her. I decided to go and visit her family in South Texas, and when I got there, I was told I was the very first person to come and ask them any questions about Melissa. They said to me, even the lawyers never asked us any questions. The trial was a circus. The DA that, sentenced Melissa is in prison right now. He got 13 years for bribery and corruption.
Did you believe Melissa right from the beginning?
Oh, no. I mean, at the beginning, I was just, like hearing infos, right? That Melissa had never been violent, that, Mariah had fallen down the stairs, that the DA was in prison, that her court-appointed attorney had gone work for the DA. I mean, I just listened to that and thinking, oh, this is weird, but, everybody's innocent in prison, right? So I was just like, let's wait, let's do my research. And then quick search on the internet, and I found out that it was actually true. The DA was in prison. Her attorney was working for the DA, so I thought that was kind of peculiar. And then when I visited Melissa, when I met her the very first time, something told me, this is so wrong. There's something wrong in this case. And I just really wanted to know more. And my idea was to make a film about her and her story without knowing if she was innocent or not. It's really when I read the thousands of pages of documents. I mean, I think I must have read like 4,000 pages of CPS files where, she was just never violent to any of her children. And I realized there were no witnesses whatsoever. And her kids were actually saying that, she was never abusive, where I was just like, what is this case? In the US, really, you can sentence someone to death, and there are just no witnesses. There's nothing. I mean, the only thing, to be clear, that they have against Melissa Lucio is her coerced confession. 6 hours, 7 hours of,
Forced confession, would you say?
Yeah, coerced. Yeah, I mean, because, they really pushed her to the limit. And at the very end, she basically said, I guess I'm responsible. And, even the best experts today in coerced confessions, say that, this was really a bad one. This was really shocking. And that's really the only thing they had, apart, of course, from like a dead child covered in bruises.
But there are explanations for that, potentially.
And there's explanations for that.
Yeah. Tell us about the US justice system as a whole, because, we hear lots of stories, don't we, about the US justice system being incredibly racist. Presumably you would say that's an element in this?
I would actually go further. I would actually tell you that, you cannot be on death row unless you are poor, unless you're black or brown, or mentally disabled. And sometimes you can be just all of those. That's a fact. If you have a decent lawyer, not court appointed, and you happen to be white, your chances of ending up on death row are slim to none, really. And so, yes, there's an incredible number of wrongful convictions in the U.S. People are, used to it, unfortunately. It's become, something common, like, you serve 20, 30 years, 40 years, and all of a sudden, they discover that you haven't done it, and then you're out. When you have such a system, how can you still have the death penalty, is my question.
If Melissa Lucio is executed, you're going to be one of the 5 witnesses to see that happen, aren't you?
Correct.
How does that, how do you come to terms with that? Hopefully it will never happen, but if it does?
Because I, was the first one to, believe Melissa, because I investigated that case, in depth. And I know she didn't do this. And so that's why I'm advocating for her. And, I told her, since the beginning, I'm going to be with you till the end. And I'm sticking to that. She wants me there, and I will be there with her till the end. That's it. Hoping, of course, that's not going to happen. I have high hopes. So does she. I'm so happy that my film, enabled this somehow,
Capital punishment, of course, is a major issue right across the world. Here in France as well, even surveys say the majority want it reintroduced. But one of France's former justice ministers, very well known here in France, is fully behind Melissa Lucio. Let's listen.
I'm asking Texas authorities to spare the life of Melissa. Acting differently would, of course, be sacrilegious.
Bien sûr, un sacrilège. Bien sûr.
Of course, it would be an attack against what's most sacred. And I must say, as I near the end of my existence, it would be a revolting injustice. One that would dishonor the state of Texas, which far from needs it.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it, the amount of support that the film has generated?
Yeah, it's incredible. For me, it's like, It's been 2 years now that the film's been released in the U.S. It was picked up by a huge platform in the U.S. It's on Hulu, so people start getting to know her story, and then we start getting more and more support, and the biggest support was really the press, because all the people who since have investigated, and that's what I wanted. I was just like, please, take the baby. Just go and investigate this case and have found it to be just an egregious miscarriage of justice. And there's so many things wrong. I mean, I often say that everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong in Melissa's case. And so I'm really thankful for everything that's happening, even, if it's happening really late in the process, because she's 2 weeks away from an execution date.
At the trial, the emergency doctor called it the worst case of child abuse he'd seen in his career. What if you're wrong? Do you have any doubts at all?
Yeah. That lady is actually being sued right now by a family, and she was also, part of the Rodney Reed case. So, and she also put another man, Manuel Velez, on death row, who happened to be saved a couple of years later by the ACLU. So I would have caution about, what she says. Since then, many forensic experts have said the exact opposite. They said that, yes, it was an accident, that, it is, she probably had, we know she had blunt head trauma, and that, she had something called DIC, which is coagulopathy, when the blood's not clotting anymore, and that, you start having lots and lots and lots of bruises. That's not something uncommon. It's just something that, was not even looked at, because Melissa is where she's at because of what she represents in the eyes of society, which is a bad mom, a poor mom, an Hispanic mom, who has a drug addiction, and basically, let's just get rid of, let's just get rid of Melissa Lucio. We don't need people like this in our society.
No doubts at all from you. Good to talk to you today on the programme. Sabrina Van Tassel joining us. The rally is at 6:30 on Thursday, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Where in Paris?
Place de l'Hôtel de Ville.
OK, Hotel de Ville. Great. Thanks very much. Thanks very much
Thank
for
you.
coming in and talking to us today. Fascinating to hear about Melissa's story.